Hello everyone and welcome back to Spanish Sling, a podcast where we try to bridge the gap between the Spanish and Singaporean companies and encourage economic relations between them. During the past years, we have been hearing all news about COVID vaccines, but what about the rest of vaccines that have been developed in Singapore and worldwide? This is why today we welcome to Spanish Sling Jordi Esparza, immunologist and vaccine developer working in Hilleman Laboratories. So Jordi, thank you for coming to the Spanish Sling.
Thank you for having me.
And in this first part of the interview, we're going to focus on vaccine development in Singapore. So you have been working in different projects, so can you give us an overview of the latest vaccine development projects that you have been working for the past years?
Yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, Singapore have been working in vaccines for a while now. I would say for the last 10 years more or less. At the very beginning, Singapore was very interested in bringing startups that were working on vaccine development. And these were typically 2 or 3 startups from the United States of America. And eventually the landscape evolved into different multinationals. They were absorbed into different multinationals, or they continued their development process and left Singapore. But recently, what we had in Singapore was the presence, very important presence of the Japanese multinational Takeda. And this is where I started in Singapore, working in vaccine development and product development. And in there I had the opportunity to develop the dengue vaccine, which will be in the market in European markets, hopefully in the next year.
Wow.
And currently, Singapore has taken a lot of interest in expanding the vaccine capabilities, because Singapore did not have a production plan for vaccine manufacturing until it set a collaboration with Hilleman Laboratories. And so Hilleman Laboratories was inaugurated early this year in February, and we are an integrated one-stop shop where we have R&D integrated with a manufacturing plant, and it's the first time that we're having this in Singapore.
Yeah. Wow, so many congratulations, first of all because of the dengue vaccine and also for your new collaboration and the Hilleman Laboratories as a result. And you have talked about the way that first they started in Singapore, maybe startups and later multinationals. So we can assume that Singapore is a big investor when it comes to this field.
Traditionally, it has not been very strong, but in the last 2 years, it definitely has changed its gears, and now is gearing towards a very serious investment. Since Hilleman Labs was inaugurated in February this year, 3 other big multinationals have explained their desire to come to Singapore. We have multinationals like Thermo, which will, in the next 5 years, they will create a manufacturing to prepare for pandemic situations. The giant Sanofi company also has announced they want to have a presence in Singapore and create also a state-of-the-art manufacturing plants for vaccines. And also BioNTech, which is behind the very famous mRNA Pfizer vaccine, has also said that they want to have a presence in Singapore and they want to establish their headquarters in Singapore. So in the next 3 to 5 years, definitely I see a lot of improvement in this area, a very important area of biotechnology, with these very big names coming to Singapore. So hats off to Singapore.
Yeah, so we will wait and see the results, and congratulations for Singaporean government for this initiative. So you have talked, Jordi, about different companies coming here with different projects and initiatives. But how about the Singaporean government initiatives on this matter? Do they align with the company's initiative, or what are the goals in terms for vaccination development?
Yeah, Singapore has always support research in infectious diseases through their National Agency for Science and Technology, which is called A-STAR, or also in their all the landscape of universities in Singapore They have lots of very top of the line investigators in this field. But it wasn't until very recently, in the last 1 or 2 years, where the Singapore Economic Development Board actually made a big effort into trying to attract companies and industrial partners into Singapore. But the science and R&D have always been in this regard in Singapore, which is infectious diseases, very important for Singapore since a long time.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I have heard about different countries, different names. So my question will be related to this topic. So is there a real international collaboration when it comes to vaccine development, and in particular Singapore trying to attract overseas laboratories, as you have give examples as, to kind of join hands and join forces in that matter?
At an international level, for example, we have CEPI. CEPI is the Consortium for Epidemic Preparedness Innovation, and this is headquartered in Oslo, and it's around 5 to 6 years old only, okay? And it's funded by governments and philanthropic organizations. So as you can see, at an international level, these joint ventures with private and public money have always existed. It's now that European governments and also Asian governments have realized they need to make maybe go to the next step. And Singapore is collaborating with CEPI, collaborating with the pharma industries, and certainly I see this as a big opportunity. Unfortunately, it was also put into the front line by the COVID pandemic. But this, you need to remember that Singapore had passed at the turn of the century. They had SARS, and then they had also MERS. So actually, they learned from those episodes, and they had a national plan early on, much earlier than other countries in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah, so let's hope that now with the lesson learned of COVID, now there's a real international and efficient cooperation. So finally, Jordi, I want to conclude this interview talking about the future of the vaccine development. So are there any news regarding to the matter, any future developments that you foresee?
Yeah, thank you for this question. This is a very difficult question.
Yes.
So in my point of view, what I expect to, so let me give you an answer how I see things evolving in the next 5 years and how I see things evolving in the next decade or so. In the next 5 years, I think that technology that today is at the vanguard will become mainstream. And I'm talking about recombinant DNA proteins. I'm talking about viral vectors for the delivery of the antigen of interest. I'm talking about the second generation of mRNA vaccines. I'm talking like the first generation of DNA vaccines and other, and then changes in the formulation sciences like new lipid formulations, for example. And then if I try to see what is today very experimental, what I would like to see in the next decade is that these experimental vaccine enterprises become at least not mainstream, but that they become proven, okay? And there are two or three, there are a few aspects there that I follow with a lot of interest, but one of them is the field of inverse vaccines. Inverse vaccines is similar to a normal vaccination, but you are trying to ameliorate or eradicate autoimmune diseases, like for example multiple sclerosis or type 1 diabetes. This is very experimental, but I think it may jump into the next level in the next decade.
Wow. So it's very interesting. I hope everything just goes perfectly and we can see your progress. So people like myself will just see and research what you're doing, and people like yourself will be exploring new things and making progress. So congratulations on advance for your new and future developments. Thank you so much, Jordi, for coming.
Anytime, thank you.